Okay, so this one is away from screen because you really need to think about line height. Line height is the cause of most arguments between front ends and their designers because they both seem to get confused about what the other one means or how to implement what the designer is requesting. And it's by design somehow. Basically, here's two lines of text, right? And the traditional term is leading. So if you work in like InDesign or Photoshop, these things are used. Leading, that's the measurement between this is the baseline of the text that sits along the bottom of the text, if I did it correctly, and this line. These are the two baselines. So when someone gives you leading, that's the distance between those two, right? So this could be a leading of like 24 pixels or something like that. That's the leading. However, if you then try to do that in web, you would use line height, assuming it works in the same way, right? They'll tell you to do this font size, you do that font size. Then the line height, you just match the leading to that with the line height. And it doesn't look right. And then the designer will come back to you saying that the line height isn't correct. And then you check the specs and you say, yes, it is. And then there's a kind of confusion. And it's because of line height isn't the same as leading. For some reason, it works like this. When you add line height, it works out the relative size of the text, which is excluding these kind of ascenders. It's like this, and then it creates like a box around that bit of text. So it'll be like this. I'll do it for both. And the line height is the height of these boxes which go around the text. So if you set your line height to 24, and we assumed it would work in the same way and just push those lines apart, you'll see that this top line moves as well, rather than just the lines moving further down. This box gets larger, and this box gets larger. And all the lines space away from each other. But you're not just adding more pixels between two lines, you're kind of center aligning these inside their own internal boxes, which are going to push further away from one another. It's this incredibly complicated, and I don't really understand why it was done in this way. But when CSS was implemented in version 1, the line height decided to work off of this basis, and it's just created a great deal of confusion. Line height is unitless. You can set line height to be 1 or 1.2, or you can use ems or rems or percentages or pixels, because it's all just relative of this system. So if your line height is 1.4, it becomes 1.4 of the default 100% of what this kind of box is. I'm not explaining it in a very clever way with the correct terms or whatever. I'm trying to rush through, but basically it's confusing, and basically it doesn't work in the way you'd probably anticipate. The workarounds people have found are that you add a kind of pixel thing, you can kind of match it by eye or with some overlays to just check it sort of works. And then you can add a margin to the top or to the bottom just to sort of push it into place, so that as long as the first line starts in the right place and your line height kind of aligns, it will kind of match. And it's kind of been the best solution for a long time. It's just to sort of hack your way through. Use some sort of margin or negative margin to get it sort of aligned. More recently, people have tried to do clever things with calc and with percentages, because of depending on what the font is, it will have different overall height, and then you can use percentages of what the ascenders and descenders are, and then you can relatively work out what a line height will be and use a divisor to basically rework it back to how you'd prefer it, which is you just give a single value to tell you how far the lines should be spaced. I've looked at a few of those. That might work as a system. They just look quite complicated. There's a hell of a lot of maths is going to have to be done to kind of work things backwards, and it really just seems like there should be a native solution. The good news is that in the distance there is a property called leading trim coming along, which is basically going to strip away everything from here and instead just going to give you the basic text box, and then you should be able to just do straightforward line heights, and you don't need to work with this negative margin because it will know the top of the text is the top, and that's where you want to start from. So there are some promising things in the future coming along. I'll put some links in the description though, so there's some stuff on the way that might be useful. Anyway, that's that one. Please leave a comment in the description and subscribe, and we're going to tackle some more CSS weirdness in the future. Thanks a lot.